Welcome. I'm Tracy Smith, and this is Here Comes the Sun, a closer look at some of the people, places, and things we bring you every weekend on Sunday morning. As host of The Late Late Show on CBS for the past 8 years, James Corden reshaped late-night TV with wacky musical sketches that have become viral sensations. Now he's moving on. Corden signed off in April, and now he's looking forward to the next chapter. Ben Mankiewicz caught up with the versatile actor and comedian just before his final bow.
Corden transformed a familiar format. The couch and desk remained, but the guests appeared together with segments that made it more a viral variety show than anything else.
Ready?
Take Carpool Karaoke.
Just stop your crying, it's a sign of the times.
Later in the show, James Corden on the guest who got away.
There must be guests you wanted to get and couldn't. I mean, it's a fairly lame question in some regards, but how about somebody you almost got and thought you were going to get and were excited about, and then it fell through for all the reasons that those things can fall through?
Oh, there's a few of those. I mean, so many of these things are just logistical.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There's 1,000
So,
reasons for it to fall through, yeah.
There were a few carpools that I really wanted to do. Like, I really wanted to do Paul Simon.
Then a new exhibit celebrates the history of newspaper comics, all preserved thanks to one passionate collector. Luke Burbank has the story.
The library is currently displaying just a sample of the trove of cartoons, some 2.5 million pieces in all, that Bill Blackbeard amassed over 30 years of collecting. It's called Man Saves Comics.
This is Little Nemo in Slumberland by Winsor McCay, one of the greatest cartoonists in history, one of the earliest fantasy comics. We have a complete run of Hugo Hercules. It's from 1902, and it's essentially Superman 30 plus years before Superman existed.
That's all coming up right here on Here Comes the Sun. James Corden's final show as Late Late Show host on CBS aired April 27, 2023. Among the hallmarks of his tenure were the celebrity-driven sketches, including Spill Your Guts and Carpool Karaoke. But perhaps no one was having more fun than the host himself, making it even more difficult for him to walk away. Here's Ben Mankiewicz.
8 years, he's been reinventing late-night television on CBS's The Late Late Show. Johnny Carson never jumped out of a plane with Tom Cruise.
This is that ice cold
Or sang Carpool Karaoke with Bruno Mars, Stevie Wonder, even Barbra Streisand. There's a cliche that many in Hollywood stop traffic. With Crosswalk the Musical, James Corden does it literally.
It's fun watching you sit around a table with Kim Kardashian and asking her to, rank the style choices of her sisters. That's fun.
Well, I think that's the currency of our show. I think joy is the currency. We've always wanted to create a show that is joyful, that's uplifting, a place where you feel like you can go and have a great time.
But Corden, at the top of his game, is leaving the show and the country.
This will be my last year hosting The Late Late Show. Don't you dare.
The 44-year-old is signing off and returning to London.
It is going to be a blast. I promise you that. We'll be right back with more of The Late Late Show, everybody. I'll always be gobsmacked and amazed that this was a part of my life. But my wife and I, we always knew that this was an adventure and not a final destination.
Is there something you'll miss the most?
More than anything, I'm just going to miss my friends that I've made here at the show. I'm going to miss the feeling of coming into this office every day and knowing that someone's going to make you laugh.
So really pushing my man.
Before we get to why he's going, let's marvel at how it began, almost by accident.
It was inconceivable. I don't look like I should be hosting a TV show. I'd never stood on a monologue mark and done a monologue. I'd never interviewed a guest. Nothing about this should work.
Hasta la vista, baby!
But work it did, which speaks volumes about Corden's talent Virtually unknown in the U.S., he was a familiar face in England, on the screen and the stage. Mostly, he was an actor, a comedy actor.
I would probably just say I'm a performer. That's probably what I am. I just love performing. It's all I've ever loved. I've loved it since I don't remember a time that I didn't just love performing.
Thank you.
Success in London's West End brought him to Broadway, where he won a Tony Award, Best Actor in a Play.
I'm my own worst enemy. Stop being negative. I'm not being negative. I'm being realistic.
That led to a pitch meeting with CBS executives in Hollywood. He had a sitcom. They wanted it. He turned them down.
The more I lived with it and thought about it, I thought, it's very unlikely that this will work on an American network.
Then they started talking, casually, about the hour after Stephen Colbert's show.
I said, I think you've got an opportunity to have an hour there that embraces the internet. Make a show that launches at 12:37, but people consume and watch all day, because that's how that audience are consuming their content now. Your traditional 12:30 audience they're still watching, they're just watching in a different way.
To his surprise, CBS offered him the show.
Were you afraid? Or did you fear failure? Better way to put it?
I don't know if I fear failure, because I think that's an interesting thing, failure. You can only really judge anything by your own personal human growth.
Yeah.
So saying that, you want the show to succeed. But in truth, I think it was quite easy for me, because I was so convinced that it wouldn't work. Welcome to the Late Late Show, everybody.
But it did, since night one.
I will really do my best not to let any of you down, truly.
Corden transformed a familiar format. The couch and desk remained, but the guests appeared together with segments that made it more a viral variety show than anything else.
Ready?
Take Carpool Karaoke.
Just stop your crying. It's a sign of the times.
It's a crazy thing, just the notion of driving around with an artist and singing their songs. Like, it's so simple and so perfect. It's like, it's genius.
Well, I think there's something very humanizing about it.
I don't care about that.
The songs are the glue that kind of hold it all together, but there's an intimacy that comes from that interview, which I think and it's a humanizing environment. It's what we all do. We all sing these songs in the car.
Beep, 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 yeah.
But not with Paul McCartney.
Stop and say hello. 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 Penny Lane is in.
It goes down as a personal favorite for Corden.
The segment with Paul McCartney was probably the pinnacle of that as an idea.
You were only waiting for this moment to arrive.
Going into his house, which he hadn't stepped in for, I think, since he left. And he said, I just don't feel comfortable. I feel weird about it. I sort of go, should we go in? And he goes, yeah, let's do it. And my God,
Will you soon need me? Will you soon feed me? When I'm 64 altogether. When I'm 64.
what have I done to deserve such memories, you know?
Given all that success and how much he's changed late night, why leave now? The answer is both personal and professional.
We really want our children to experience life in London. We are blown away that they've even had the experience of living in another country. It's how much you look at your professional life and your career and your personal life and your growth as a family. That's what it is. There's just so many other things that I'd like to try and see what I might be capable of.
Okay, that isn't what happened. I don't want
He
to
seems
know.
capable of largely anything.
It's what happened now! Why'd you have to shout all the time?
He's starring in a limited series, Mammals, out now on Amazon Prime.
More than anything, I just got to go and see what's out there.
He is also navigating a recent bump in the road. The owner of a posh New York restaurant briefly banned him after a dust-up with the waitstaff.
Well, the third time,
Corden apologized in a phone call and then on the air.
I made a sarcastic, rude comment, right, about cooking it myself, and it is a comment I deeply regret.
The owner lifted the ban, but in this era of endless news cycles and social media, the story won't die. Corden is clearly tired of discussing it.
This little round of internet issue that has gone on, it must have bummed you out.
Perspective is really important. You know, we really try and make such a positive show. Try and seek that positivity. And if you put your focus there, that's what I just try and do, is what I've tried to do every day that we're here, you know. Have I missed anything? Did I miss any news?
Corden has figured out one way to navigate these peculiar times.
Don't have social media on my phone. It's not a world that I sort of engage in.
He's been fully engaged in The Late Late Show. Now he's leaving it for good.
Can you envision a scenario where you would return to late night television?
I can't envisage a scenario where I would return as a late night host. I'd be very, very surprised. If it did, I'd be gobsmacked.
It sounds like he's already been gobsmacked by his adopted country since 2015.
I think America is a wonderful place. It is a very, very special place to work. It's a very, very special place to live, and it's a very, very special place to sit behind a desk and tell people to stick around and you'll be right back.
Tom, I might be done in a minute.
Okay, we're done. Well done. Well done, mate.
What a privilege. It really, really is.
Up next, an exclusive excerpt from James Corden's chat. You can only see right here on CBS News Streaming. Stay with us. As promised, here's more from Ben Mankiewicz's chat with James Corden.
I am so envious that you had the, strength, vision to actually take social media off your phone. How long has that been going on? Because I do things, my big move is I move Twitter to the back page of the phone, but I can't quite let it go.
Well, I think social media can be a force for absolute good.
Course,
I really
yeah.
do. That's
Yeah.
been proven.
Yes.
There is so many great things happen there, great connections, movements, all those things. It can be an absolute force for good. I think when you have to make an hour of TV every day and you have to make 1,200 of those in 8 years and you've got 3 kids and all the things that come with life, for me it's just it's a distraction that I don't really seek or need it in my life, really. I really, really love just existing in the world that that I love being in, you know?
There must be guests you wanted to get and couldn't. I mean, it's a fairly lame question in some regards, but how about somebody you almost got and thought you were going to get and were excited about, and then it fell through for all the reasons that those things can fall through?
Oh, there's a few of those. I mean, so many of these things are just logistical
Yeah, that's what I mean. There's 1,000 reasons for it to fall through, yeah.
There were a few carpools that I really wanted to do. I really, really wanted to do Paul Simon.
Yeah.
Because he's one of the most important artists of all time. But also, one of my biggest memories of singing in a car is we would go on holiday. When I was probably around about 14 was probably the first time we ever went abroad on holiday. We always used to go to the coast, to Bournemouth or to Devon, and one year we were in a trailer, in a caravan, and it rained solidly for 10 days. And my mum said, that's it, next year we're going to go to France. And so we would drive from sort of a 4-hour drive to the coast, and then we'd get the ferry, and then we'd drive maybe 9 or 10 hours to the south of France. And we would just listen to Graceland all the time. Some of my favourite childhood memories are me and my sisters singing along to Graceland. And I always had this feeling of wouldn't it be amazing to go to New York and sing with him? And we never got to do that, but I still thank him for some of my favourite childhood memories, and I love him. And yeah, that was probably one that I really wanted to do.
You don't really know what's next now. You could have stayed and you would know exactly what was going to happen for the next couple of years.
Well, you would and you wouldn't. You don't, you know what I mean? You know, I think it's not about not knowing what's going to happen. It's just about saying that fundamentally, I think if you ever have the opportunity to change up your life, it will only be of benefit, I think. So I don't know about you, but I feel, and I've really felt this ever since having kids, so my eldest child, my son, is 12, and any parent, I think, would say that time is playing tricks on me and it's moving at a rate that I am not comfortable with. I feel like my son learned to read yesterday. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so actually, any time, uncomfortable as it can feel, that you can enforce change, what you're doing is you're just slowing down time and you're adding chapters to your life as opposed to it being just one long book. You're adding absolute chapters, and that's how I felt coming here to do it. The feelings that I feel right now in my entire being I haven't felt this since we decided to make this jump and move 8.5 years ago. And both are daunting in different ways, you know?
Yeah, but there's also clearly, I mean, you can tell by the tone of your voice, there's also a sense of excitement to it.
Yeah, I think to be able to have new things come into your life, you've got to make space for them. And I love this show so much. I love what we've created, and I love the team that we have. The environment of making the show is just, I'm just so proud of everything that we've done.
Up next, a very serious collection of funny pages. Welcome back. It's said one person's trash is another's treasure. But in the case of an extensive comics collection now on display, one man's hoard of newspapers saved over 30 years turned out to be a gold mine, preserving the art and history of newspaper comics. Luke Burbank takes us inside the exhibit.
Only a handful of people knew what Bill Blackbeard was really up to for all those years.
It was a real situation of, one person's trash is another person's treasure.
The treasure that Blackbeard, and by the way, that's his real name, was storing from floor to ceiling in his San Francisco home was maybe the largest, most comprehensive private collection of American newspaper comics ever assembled.
He was single-minded.
Caitlin McGurk is curator of comics and cartoon art at the Billy Ireland Cartoon Library and Museum at The Ohio State University.
He felt a calling to preserve this type of material that no one else really cared about, comic art is kind of an underdog of the art world.
The library is currently displaying just a sample of the trove of cartoons, some 2.5 million pieces in all, that Bill Blackbeard amassed over 30 years of collecting. It's called Man Saves Comics.
This is Little Nemo in Slumberland by Winsor McCay, one of the greatest cartoonists in history, one of the earliest fantasy comics. We have a complete run of Hugo Hercules. It's from 1902, and it's essentially Superman 30 plus years before Superman existed.
You might be wondering why it fell to one eccentric scholar to do so much of this preservation, and why it matters. Well, because there was a time, long ago, before the internet, when things were not saved digitally, meaning a Sunday morning comic with its vibrant colors and social importance could be lost forever if no one saved that particular issue of that specific newspaper.
Why do you think newspaper comics maybe didn't get the respect that they deserve?
People have historically viewed newspaper comics, or comics in general, as something that was just meant for kids or made for the masses. And so it was kind of neglected from the start for that reason.
But they were important for a whole variety of reasons, from early representation of same-sex relationships to black time travelers to entertaining the kids on a Sunday.
Wow, okay, so this is what a kid in 1904 might have made on like a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, you could put this together at home yourself, and this was, affordable, accessible entertainment for children from all different walks of life.
There were, of course, libraries that were converting their collections of old newspapers onto microfilm, but that meant the rich colors of the comics would be lost to history.
Microfilm is entirely black and white photography, and it's film, so it gets covered in scratches and just after a few uses by patrons can be rendered unusable.
Which is where, once again, Bill Blackbeard stepped in.
He essentially, with his wife and some volunteer friends, got a van and started traveling around the United States, amassing these discarded bound volumes from newspapers so that he could clip the comics section out of it and save it in his house. The only room that he didn't have newsprint in was the bathroom because he was worried about how the water would affect the paper.
Decades later, Blackbeard was facing eviction from his California rental home, so he sold his collection to the university. But getting all that material to Ohio, that was no small feat.
It arrived in 1998 in 6 semi-trucks, so it's 75 tons of newspaper clippings.
And 25 years later, they're still taking stock.
We're at about 30 to 40% that has been processed. We have a lot of material that we still have to get through.
Jenny Robb is head curator of comics and cartoon art, overseeing a small team tasked with cataloging and properly storing all those materials.
Are there boxes that haven't been opened yet?
There are boxes that have not been opened in decades.
What has been opened and stored at exactly 64 degrees for archival purposes? Things like the entire 1931 run of Blondie.
So if you want to read Blondie, you can just start at the beginning and read right on through.
And there are the names you might be less familiar with, like Elsie Robinson.
She was incredibly famous in her time. She had more than 20 million readers. And just to put that into perspective, that's double the number of subscribers today to the New York Times.
Allison Gilbert co-wrote the first biography of Robinson, a single mother who created an editorial cartoon and syndicated column Empire that ran from the 1920s through the 1950s.
She was able to take on subject matters that perhaps weren't tackled in other parts of the paper as readily. Feminism, marriage, gender equality, pay inequity, racism, capital punishment.
Bill Blackbeard passed away in 2011, but not before his life's passion, the preservation of an ephemeral and often underestimated art form, had been safely transferred to a new generation. Sort of like something out of a superhero story.
I have to imagine he'd be pretty excited to see that this is where it all led.
We hope that he would be proud, and we've discovered such incredible things in here, and we're so grateful for what he did.
I'm Tracy Smith. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you here next time on Here Comes the Sun.